A new foam compound, a new geometry, new rods, a different stack height. The Boston 12 is really different. Is it still Boston? We'll figure it out. But is it a better shoe than the Boston 10 and the Boston 11? Let's find out. Hey everyone, and welcome back on the channel. My name is Alex, and in today's video we have the review of the Adidas Adizero Boston 12, or let's call it the Adidas Boston 12. This is one of the most famous lineup at Adidas. One that won medals, broke records, and became, an icon in Adidas lineup over the years. The Adidas Boston 9 was the last original Boston, and the Adidas Boston 10 revisited completely the franchise, gaining stack height, getting fiberglass rods, and changing completely the vision of what the Boston is. Here we have the Boston 12. This shoe was sent to us by Top 4 Running. You can find it online on June the 15th, so in 2 weeks when this review publishes with code META. Let's go directly into some specs. We have 37 millimeters of stack height in the heel. This is 2 less millimeters compared to the Boston 10, Boston 11, which were at 39. Quite interesting to see a company going down in stack after going almost to the official limit at 40 millimeters. 37 here, 8 millimeters drop for like 29 in the forefoot. Yeah, we're looking at 286 grams in my size US 11. This is really a big difference compared to Boston 10, which I weighed back 2 years ago at 333 grams. So this is a 47 grams difference between the two shoes. The stack height plays a role, but there's also a new compound. We'll come to that in a minute in the midsole section of the review. So lighter, and this is of course very pleasant to see. Price point, we're still at 160 euros, $160, no difference here. Adidas managed to maintain that price point quite competitive, and I think it's a good value for your money, but again, we'll touch on that here in a minute. The upper of the Boston 12 is something quite simple, quite minimal, like all the Bostons. It's a shoe that should be used between, endurance, long run pace, up to marathon, half marathon, racing, so a wide range of paces, very different training sessions you can do in this shoe. And the minimal, very simple upper is meant to be something that you forget about and that you can use pretty much in any condition. I feel like this is a better job compared to Boston 10. Keep in mind that I haven't reviewed Boston 11 quite on purpose because I thought it was very close to Boston 10 and I didn't want to really, spend some time reviewing this shoe, to be honest. So a better job compared to Boston 10, which was a bit hot in terms of upper for me. Here we have something way more minimal, way more simple. It's quite abrasive in terms of material, so it created a small blister on my second toe, which, reminds me a bit of the upper of the Adidas Adios Pro 3. Nothing too pleasant against your foot, but that's okay. I loosened up a bit here the laces and I got a bit more room. The fit isn't very wide. It's quite a narrow fit, a bit more wide in the forefoot, but it's quite a narrow fit. It's a long fit, so you could look at half a size down, like on many Adizero shoes. Although I would think that this is less of an issue on this shoe and you could go through to size like I did. It works well. You don't get the perfect heel lockdown and you could have something a bit more narrow in terms of heel design to keep your heel in position. But overall, I feel like this is a true to size fit and a good one, albeit the abrasive upper that may be a bit softer and that would be nicer. Midsole, like I said, we have a big change here. First, we have a bit more Lightstrike Pro, so the premium foam from Adidas, a blend of PBA and EVA, if my information is correct. As you can see, it's the additional sort of layer of Lightstrike Pro comes in the forefoot. You have that visually quite appealing foam design here, which indicates a bit more of that Lightstrike Pro in the forefoot, so something probably a bit more responsive, bouncy at that toe-off face. That's at least what your imagination can tell. And then you have that Lightstrike 2.0 EVA-based foam that runs through the shoe all the way from forefoot to heel, but that is a bit softer compared to Lightstrike that we knew in the past. So, I was imagining a ride that first would be a bit softer, would be probably a little bit more aggressive with that Lightstrike Pro in the forefoot. And I was excited about this shoe when I first saw it. How's the ride? The ride is, let's call it, first of all, improved compared to Boston 10. No doubt, I am enjoying this ride more, which is a good thing. coming from Boston 10, where I had really mixed feelings about the shoe and about the ride overall. I would say that I don't really feel the extra Lightstrike Pro in the forefoot, at least at easy paces. And when you pick up the pace, I did some strides in the shoe because I wanted to feel a bit how the foam reacted. You can start feeling that you have more Lightstrike Pro in the forefoot and that you have that extra snappiness, responsiveness here at toe off. The good thing I would say is not necessarily in the forefoot, but is really in the heel and the midfoot with that new Lightstrike 2.0 foam. You can feel that it is a bit softer without compressing too much and without being a soft foam. It's still on the firmer side of things, but you can feel some compression and you can feel a nice cushion at landing, which wasn't the case in the past. It was, more of a firm landing, not necessarily cushy riding. It's not cushioned, or it's not like extra cushioned, but you have a bit of softness, a bit of compression, and you have a more welcoming landing compared to what I experienced on the Boston 10. So overall, I would call it a solid ride and a ride that at least can really deliver, let's say, endurance paces and for longer runs. That's how I would use the shoe. Longer runs, maybe tempo sessions, and maybe even faster paces, because again, when picking up the pace and transitioning a bit faster to the forefoot, you can start feeling that Lightstrike Pro foam here in the forefoot, kicking in and reminding you of what the Adidas Pro 3 can deliver in terms of snappiness and responsiveness in the forefoot. Lightstrike 2.0, I think, is a very good improvement compared to Lightstrike because it's a bit softer without being too soft, and I would assume it works really well in those like double layer type of setups. I wouldn't see a shoe only with Lightstrike 2.0 because it's still on those, one of those older foams, EVA foams, and nowadays we expect something slightly more exciting in terms of ride, at least for that price point. Stability, you have a few interesting features. One of them being that groove in the center, helping to align your foot strike and really to kind of roll to the forefoot nicely and centered. You have a pronounced bevel here in the heel, which is not symmetric, so you really have that medial side being a bit more protruding and helping to kind of compensate for that extra pronation that some may experience without being a shoe that dictates your ride, and that's really good. I really like that feature at Adidas, not the first shoe, but that's something I really enjoy. Let's also address the rods, offering a bit more rigidity in the shoe. You can still bend it, moving from fiberglass rods to carbon rods, something that I think Adidas did a good job at. The rods are also a bit different. You used to have like a plate in the heel and then the rods. Now the rods are running full length in that sort of pretzel design, if that makes sense. So you have something that also, first of all, is still flexible, but a bit more rigid and snappy at forefoot. But I also believe that adds to the stability feature of the shoe. Width of the platform in the forefoot is also quite wide, and that's also something that really helps you have something quite stable at toe off to push on and to go to your next step. Value for money, 160 euros for a shoe that supposedly can do everything, and I would say that can do everything maybe except recovery easy paces where it feels a bit inappropriate. You can run easy recovery, but it doesn't feel like it's built for that, and it's not built for that. I would say that if you were to have only one shoe in your rotation and it was a Boston 12, then $160, 160 euros is a fair price point, and even less if you could use code META on top for running, like I said earlier. If you combine this shoe with other shoes, like for instance, maybe with an entry-level shoe, Adistar from Adidas, or like with a top-end shoe, Adidas Pro 3, and this shoe being in the middle, if that makes sense, you can also find, I would say, good value for this money. Don't forget also that Adidas very often goes into discount mode, and then it becomes really, really solid value for the money. I'm happy with the shoe. I'm gonna put it in my rotation for a few weeks because it works for me for my stride, and maybe you will have an update on this review. Let's link to the huge, massive Adizero review we did 2 years ago with all the shoes from Adios 6 back then, Boston 10, Adios Pro 2 and Prime X, the original Prime X. Let's put it here, and if you want to subscribe, it's gonna be right here. Thanks for watching, enjoy your run today, enjoy your ride, and go beyond your limits. I'll see you in the next one.